What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning back into another video. The title should already give this away. We are working on the CRX, which is still under wraps right now, but I have 90% of our turbo kit for it. If you guys already didn't know, the all-wheel drive CRX is getting turboed. I have it all laid out over here. And before I go over this, I just want to touch base on something. November 23rd in Bradenton Motorsports, we're going to be at Cletus and Cars. It's a super fun event. If you haven't gone there before for one of the events, I'm sure you've seen videos online of it. They have demolition drag racing, test and tune drag racing. They also have burnout contests, car shows, music, food. It's an awesome event. So we're going to be out there as early as Saturday lets us get in and just enjoying. So make sure to stop by the tent and say what's up. And, just hope you guys can join us for that super fun event. Without further ado, let's get started with this video. All right, so like I said, I have about 90% of everything laid around right now. The CRX, I have to take the tarp off right now because it was raining a lot last night. But so starting with the biggest component right here, obviously we have the intercooler, the air-to-air. We're not running an air-to-water or anything. Then we have a basic eBay intercooler piping with the intercooler and the blow-off valve. I think it was $200. And I know that with CRXs, the engine bay is always really tight to run big intercoolers, and especially since I have the Hush Performance battery mount, I can't use that piece that goes around the frame rail. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually making it into a back door. Not exactly converting the intercooler, but I'm just going to run some couplers to basically reverse it. Once we get into the actual installation, then I'll show you a little bit closer what we're going to be doing. But the main reason I got this whole kit was because it does come with a lot of couplers that we're going to be needing, clamps, as well as one of my favorite pieces right here, which is actually right off the throttle body. It goes over here. You can already have the blow-off valve mounted right there, and then it goes down. So I always love this piece on all the intercooler piping kits just because it makes it such a clean transition from the throttle body down instead of having to run 4 separate pipes with little couplers in the center. For the blow-off valve, I decided to get the kit that came with the imitation HKS. I'm not sure if this is going to perform in the same the same manner as the original HKS's sound. Right here it says blow-off valve sequential. So if you guys aren't familiar with how the HKS's sound, they're like the classic early 2000s, late 90s, really popular like whistle blow-off valve. And I had it on my 4-door Integra a couple years ago, and I absolutely loved it. For the Integra, I like running them the tile version, which is just a large 50mm blow-off valve that releases all around, where this one is just more like a centralized whistle blow. So for intercooler piping, we might need to mod the cold side, or the hot side, excuse me, on the piping, and then for the cold side, we're also going to do a little bit of modification, but it's nothing crazy. If you guys saw the unboxing video a couple months ago, this is the manifold that we're going to be using. It's an eBay version of the ram horn, very similar to the BWR that used to be produced. Now BWR is out of business, but we still have this beautiful style of ram horn. And from the reviews that I've read online, this one, I think it was $200, and they perform wonderfully. Then for the turbo itself, we have a GT35 82. Actually, it's a 63 back housing, if I'm not mistaken, which is a little bit smaller than we wanted, but we're still going to make it work. It's going to spool up super fast on that car, especially since it's high compression as well. So that is a 4-bolt flange. I'm just going to make a little up pipe for it. It's not going to be anything crazy. Should just have it out right here and then straight right up to exit the hood. And the other thing that's going to be exiting the hood is obviously our wastegate. This right here is a 44mm tile imitation. So this is a fake tile, obviously. It's a 44mm wastegate. So I think right now it has an 8-pound spring in it. I still have to take it apart and verify. And I'm probably just going to put a much bigger spring in it and then hope that it comes out the whole nasty, you know. But yeah, for the oil feed, we have right here, I bought this on eBay as well. It's not the cheap line. This is actually pretty good quality for what I see. Threads right into the turbo, dash 3 if I'm not mistaken, and you can tee off the oil pressure setting unit, which right now we have deleted. I don't like the OEM switch for the B series, or I think K series, it's the same way if I'm not mistaken. It's just a dummy switch. It either tells you if there is pressure or isn't pressure, which obviously isn't good. By the time that there's no pressure, you're already in trouble. So with this, we tie it into the block, and then right here we can run our manual gauge, which we already have tapped into the block, which we'll just take out and place right there. And then we can have our oil feed for the turbo right there. That being said, I am still missing a few things. I need an oil drain. I need a flange for the exhaust. I'm going to be trying to make the exhaust myself here at home. Use my little flex core welder. It's not going to be super perfect, but I definitely want to get better at doing stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to give that a shot. And I still need to make a pipe for the up pipe and whatnot. And obviously it's still running all motor. I haven't decided if I want to keep the same injectors or throw my 2200cc injectors since I already have them and just see what it can make. But that's most of it. I still need to get the drain for it, the exhaust materials, and I think that should be it. That being said, we could rush and get this all together for the 23rd, but it is today. I think it's the 11th already, if I'm not mistaken, 11th or 12th. And I still have a lot of days for this next week and the week after that I have to work, so I can make up for the days that I'll be missing for when I go to Bradenton, since I do still work full-time. I don't work off of YouTube or anything. But so there's kind of a time period that I don't want to crunch too far. So that being said, Cletus and Cars, I am going to be running NA. There's actually, like I mentioned, a burnout competition going on for all the events. They do one, and it's really awesome. I'm going to try to enter it. I'm going to put the rear-wheel drive shaft back onto this so we can do some rear-wheel drive burnouts. If you aren't familiar with this car and you guys are new to the channel, this is my 1991 CRX. I converted it to all-wheel drive, and then sometimes I make it rear-wheel drive by pulling the axles in the front, and it's just a blast to drive. Speaking of which, let me take the tarp off right now and show you guys a little bit closer. Oh man, I've really been neglecting this car. The bumper is off right now, and actually that's the core support right there for the Integra that I was taking off. But yeah, this is basically it. Right now, I used to have 2 seats in it, but right now I just have the 1 bucket seat in it. And it is nitrous fed, all-wheel drive nitrous, but we're taking the nitrous off to go turbo, and it should be a lot funner. It's sporting the K-tuned B all-wheel drive shifter, which is very similar to the Accord/TSX. This is actually their new product that they released a couple months ago. Got all my wiring teed together right there, and my nitrous on the other side. Fuel cell in the back, as well as wiring for it, if you haven't noticed right there. I do have a fuel gauge. A lot of people who put fuel cells into their cars don't actually put a fuel gauge. And the all-wheel drive glory. Right there, you can see. I actually broke the all-wheel drive shaft the other day. I put 4 slicks on the car, and if you're not new to the channel, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I broke it, but so I can either do front-wheel drive right now or put my other drive shaft that I have in the back of the garage right now and make it rear-wheel drive again. So yeah, I think I'm gonna start mocking some of this up. Oh, another thing about the car, it's a non-VTEC B20 with an Eagle 95mm stroked crank, which makes a 2.2 liter. Send the puppy. And it is an absolute torque monster and such a fun thing to drive. Being light and B series, it has a lot of torque for it. Coil on plug by Burton Racing. Velocity stack by Sellers Racing. Definitely a super fun build. But yeah, I'm going to start mocking up some of the things. I might not take the header off just because I don't think I'm going to bolt the turbo on for right now, but I just want to see how the piping's going to look. So let me start that up real quick. So in that last clip, you obviously just saw that I was able to bolt this on right here. It's a little bit loose right now, but I just wanted the clamps on there just so it stays in form and I can move it around. The intercooler is kind of in place. Obviously, it is a really big intercooler for the car, so we're gonna have to do some modifications. This has already been cut out in the past, but I might have to trim up here so I can tuck the intercooler a little bit more in. As for the piping itself, this is 2.5, and for what comes on the kit, for the hot side of the intercooler piping, it's actually 2-inch. And the intercooler itself has 3-inch ends. They actually didn't include any couplers either for that. So there's a couple different things that I can do right now. I really wanted to do a backdoor coupler on this, basically a 90. And when I bought that kit on eBay, I was under the impression that it was a 2.5-inch intercooler, but it's not. So I had bought this 2.5-inch 90-degree elbow. I was gonna have the intercooler a little bit offsetted, and basically, if you guys can use your imagination real quick, the intercooler would be off a little bit more right to the right, and this would go straight back. And obviously I'd make sure that it clear right there, since I do have about 3.5 inches of gap right there. And with this pipe that is supposed to go like this off of the top piece right there to the intercooler, if you can use your imagination, that's how it sits. Instead of running it like this, I would cut it right there, and instead of running like that, run it like this. and then go straight to that 90-degree coupler. Obviously, being that it's different sizes right now, I can't do that. Although I was looking at it right now, I'm not sure if I kind of just want to cut it right here because this already does have the 90. And if it's within the right, length, I might be able to play with it a little bit. But I might be able to go to the parts store real quick and see if they have any 3-inch to 2.5 90s, and then it'll be super easy just to make that work. All right, so sorry about the compressor running in the back, but I was putting up some air and some tires right now. But so this piece right here, it always comes on, not always, but it comes on a lot of intercooler piping kits. I've never actually used this in one of these Hondas or anything, but after closer inspection, this almost 90-degree bend is pretty much perfect if I cut it off and run it straight to the intercooler. So that right there, obviously it's not positioned correctly with one hand. Cut it about right there, and then have the 90 go to it. I think that would be pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut that right now, and I'm gonna cut it right past the bead, right past that weld, just so we can have a little bit of grip on it, since you should do bead rolling on pipes like this so the pipe won't blow off under pressure. And this bead, the old bead from when they welded it, should help a little bit. Although it's not perfect compared to a regular bead roll, it'll still function a little bit. So I'm gonna cut that off right now and test fit it real quick. This one would actually be a lot cleaner if I were to use that down and U and whatnot, but this I just think is gonna be wasted anyway, so I might as well cut this one and then maybe just keep that in the future if I wanna run it on the other side if I end up needing it, or just, have that extra piece right there, Please excuse the mess. I'm still going back and forth with the Integra and the CRX, but I really gotta clean up the garage and this whole area. This cut wasn't perfect. It's not like I'm using a bandsaw or anything, but now I'll just clean off this stuff. You can see how inconsistent the welds are with the eBay kits though. Look at that. Obviously they grind it off on the outside, but that is super inconsistent. But she'll do. And I got it cleaned off real quick and yeah, put her on. It's not a perfect 90 at the bottom. I want to say that's more like maybe like a 70-degree, but there we go. Let's test fit her on, see what it looks like. Fitted it. I had to raise the front of the pipe just a little bit to make sure that it kind of compensates for the angle at the bottom, but I think it looks pretty good. I think with a 90-degree coupler right there, a 3-inch to 2.5, I think that's going to be just about perfect, which is awesome because people always say that it's kind of a pain to run the intercooler pipings like this on CRXs. So I'm pretty happy with how it's looking right now. One thing that I did note, how I have my cutoff switch and whatnot, the main power, it's I don't think it's gonna give me an issue, to be honest with you, but I do want to move it down a little bit just so worst case scenario I don't have constant like movement of the piping next to the actual battery wire. So I'm probably gonna take that off and mount it somewhere a little bit lower just so it's out of the way. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the blow off valve on. Just simply just like put it on. Has a little snap ring and O-ring as well. O-ring just sits right underneath the snap ring and the snap ring goes on. Obviously has a couple extra fittings for if you want to run a T in the blow-off valve or whatever. But yeah, I'm just going to put that on real quick, and that'll be almost done on this side right here. Put the, close it right there. Barely big enough to go in there. I think it's not in the groove either. Is it in? I don't think it's in the groove that it needs to be. All right, we got the blow-off valve finally mounted on there. I actually shaved down a little bit of the blow-off valve itself. I think it was a little too thick to actually get down to the groove that I needed for the snap ring. And then after I did that, it went in nice and it's still nice and firm. You can move it just a little bit, but you can feel that the actual snap ring is holding it onto the O-ring underneath it. So that should be perfect right there. Like I was saying, I need to get that coupler right here in 90 degree. I'm actually going down to Daytona right now to pick up some stuff, or actually drop off some stuff, excuse me. I'm gonna take the slicks over to our boy Lee and Shane. They're going to be using these for Cletus and cars. So the 13x9s with a 9.5 M&H tire. So that's definitely going to be really fun. This is going to be in the burnout competition, and that's going to be in the test and tune. Trying to run a 10 in Lee's car. It's a 4-door EG. And yeah, should be pretty fun. But yeah, as for this, it's pretty much said and done right there. As I was saying, I wanted to keep this piece and not chop it up for that side, because I was thinking maybe just make the intercooler come out like that and then back in over here, because the piping that they sent me for the U, for the hot side, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video too, that's just a 2-inch piping, and I really don't like 2-inch just because it's going to be a huge pressure drop from the 2-inch to the 3-inch and then the 3-inch to 2.5. I really don't like those kinds of drops. Even though the turbo itself is 2.5-inch, the outlet, and then from the 2.5 to 2-inch and 3-inch and 2.5, I hate those transitions. So that being said, I wanted to put something like this on, but you can see it's not a perfect 180. It's a little bit wider. It's like a 190, maybe like 200 degree almost, just because that's used for the other side. And Shane actually said that he has an extra 180 at the house in 2.5. So while I'm over there dropping off the slicks, I'm gonna see if I can get that to make it work on this. It's no rush. If we can't get it, then it's not a problem, because this isn't going boosted immediately. This is just for the test fit and everything. That way, when we decide to turbo it, we just throw it all on again, and we don't have any issues. But yeah, so just the 190 right there, and I will need a 3-inch to 2.5 for this side, definitely. But yeah, I just have the intercooler kind of just test mocked up, and like I said, I have to cut a little bit off of that bracket right there, which is actually what supports the hood latch cable, which I'll have to put that hood latch cable maybe zip tied up here or something. Or maybe if I just cut this right there, I'll tuck it up and have it somewhere right there. And I'll still have to make a little mount for the radiator, or not the radiator, for the intercooler off the traction bar. All right, guys, so skip forward to the next day. This is actually Tuesday right now. I ran over to Shane's house last night, and I got this U just because the one that I had wasn't really working for the angle that I needed it. And this is still a little bit tight, but I think we can make it work. You can see it reaches right there. I have some space to put a coupler around that. This is actually the hole in the frame where we had the side exit before, so I'm just utilizing that hole instead of making a dual back door like a lot of people do on CRXs. So we're going to be doing that. Right now I'm going to unplug the wideband and take the header off. That way I can mock up the actual manifold with the turbo itself. All right, so the manifold is loosely placed on there with a couple nuts and one bolt. I'm running into kind of a problem right now. If you can't already tell right off the bat, this exhaust is going to sit super close to the radiator, as well as one of the runners on the ram horn is touching the radiator shroud. So I have a couple options of what I can do. And this is without actually putting the front support on or even the intercooler to try to make sure the wastegate fits. But what I was thinking, I could actually flip the turbo, but then it hits the block. Shane said just to cut the webs right here, so I might end up doing that. But I think it was hitting a little too much to actually cut and run the cold side on the other side. If that doesn't work, then I can always switch over to the different radiator that I have, the Sirocco one. So the Sirocco, if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like an old Volkswagen radiator, which is used kind of like by budget guys to run like a tucked radiator. It's that one right there. It's what I had on the Integra. The Integra is actually getting a radiator in the back for this season coming up, so I'm not going to be using it obviously on this car. Two things happen with this though. If I run that, then I have to find a filler, since that is a sealed unit. You can't put fluid into the radiator. You have to put it in through a external fill. And if I put that, I still have to make sure that it'll clear the front as well as the intercooler. And given how much stuff is here in the front of the bumper for the CRX, I would definitely have to cut a lot more. But obviously cutting isn't an issue. Or we would have to run bumperless, which isn't exactly what I want to do. But that's what it's looking like right now. But man, these CRXs are tight. Look at this. There's like no room. If you guys remember the Integra back in the day, B-Series, turbo with a ram horn, even even with everything tight in the front, it still had a bunch of room left over. But yeah, that's what I'm running into right now. I'm gonna try flipping the block again, or flipping the turbo to the other side, cold side on the left, and I'll show you guys how close it comes, but I don't think it's gonna even be workable at that point. Idiot. I said that I was gonna show you guys what the turbo flipped the other way, and I didn't. I actually turned it around, even took the housing off of the cold side, and I mocked it all up, and it was still hitting the block like in a massive amount, so I wasn't gonna be able to place it like that. So what Shane and I came up with was kind of moving the radiator out of the place. And if I'm not going to run the Sirocco, then I can just, you know, kind of like have this one tilted right there. And this the intercooler will sit a little bit further forward. I have to see what about like this kink right here and kind of like work around it. I think I can actually cut the hose down a little bit and bring it inwards a little and make it a little straighter. But we'll definitely see once I make a up pipe for this. It's going to be a little bit tricky because that's still a little bit tight, well, especially since I'm not a fabricator or anything. But given that the flange for the turbo exhaust is going to be around right here, then I'll need a really sharp 90 just to go straight up. And I don't want it to be pretty or anything. I just want it to work, you know. As for the wastegate, I was going to do it straight up like this. But after checking with the little bracket for the hood and everything, I'd really have to cut a lot just because the way like it lines up right there. So if I spin it right there, this will actually clear perfectly and I don't have to trim anything. So it'll just be easy. I'll just have to put the flange right there and then put like a 90-degree straight up because I want the hood exit, you know. As for the piping right here, it sat around there last time. I'm gonna have to make like some type of I don't think I'll do a pipe. I remember on eBay I bought a long coupler one time that I could just kind of make it work, but I might rotate the compressor a little bit towards the block and kind of try to shimmy it into place, if that makes any sense. But we'll figure that out. It's not really important. Like I said, we're not going to Cletus & Car's turbo. We're just test fitting everything. That way I know exactly what I need to order and what I already have. So I'm going to play with the radiator a little bit more, and we'll see what I can figure out once that's already in the place that I want. And then I'll mess with the intercooler as well. All right, and then about 5 seconds, not 5 seconds, come on, let's be serious. About 5 to 10 minutes after the last clip, the intercooler is off, piping is off, manifold is off, turbo is off, the mock-up line was off, and header is back on, naturally aspirated again. Well, nitrous assisted / naturally aspirated, NA. So yeah, here's a nice overlook of exactly what we're doing with that piping underneath. So we're using the DC regular piece for the passenger side and then cut that 90 like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And this is basically the U that we're using for the other side. And we got kind of lucky because we're using the hole in the frame rail that we were, you know, using for the side exit. On regular EG, EKs, and DCs, the frame is a lot smaller right there, so you can actually use that U. For CRXs, you'll either have to mod it like that or do a backdoor intercooler. But it's pretty simple. A lot of people get scared when it comes to modding stuff and cutting. If you guys are familiar with CRXs, from the factory, this is all closed off, as well as the bottom, and we really free up a lot of space by just cutting away. As long as it's not really structural, you won't really have a lot of issues. Now, cutting into that frame right there, some people say that it'll affect, some people say it won't. That's up to your discretion. But yeah, I just have to throw the intake back on with the velocity stack out the front, and she should be ready to go back for a drive tomorrow morning. I'm planning to take this to work tomorrow, so I just want to check the oil and everything, make sure she's all good to go. Just got some E85 a couple days ago also, so she should be good to, you know, be on that NA again. You know, while we're on the topic of switching from NA/nitrous to turbo, I'm going to show you guys my favorite thing about the nitrous. This is probably my favorite thing about the whole car, to be honest. Let's show you real quick. The purge. I love that purge. It's so fun. Favorite part about the car right now. Hey guys, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you very much for sticking through it. I know it was a little bit longer, about 25 minutes today, so if you got it to this point, I appreciate your support. If you have any questions about the kit down below, leave them in the comment section or shoot me an Instagram DM at Slowintegra and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. This kit has really been pieced together from like the eBay piping kit, then an eBay manifold, an eBay turbo. It wasn't bought all together, it was pieced together, but these are all things that you can just buy off the shelf on eBay. Very simple to get, not anything special. But without further ado, we'll see you in the next video. I'm about to go to the post office right now and ship out the backpack with the goodies from Tuner Fiend, as well as the $100 cash and the shirt drop that I released earlier this month to the winner. Big shout out to them. If you haven't seen it on Instagram, I already picked the winner, so super happy to be sending that out right now. And after that, I have to go to work. So hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon doing whatever you're doing. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell. And if you can, please hit that like button for us. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time, guys. Peace.